and welcome to Josef's Model Railway and Toy Room, standing inside of a swimming pool. What more else could you expect but a little bit of housekeeping? You don't need to like, follow or subscribe to any of the videos I put out there. I just put them out there where I can, and I have the holy jolly greatest time in doing so. Now, welcome back, and once again we're getting stuck straight back in to Fawlty towers, which is why here I am standing in this pool, because the module itself is at a size to do anything I need to do with static grass and that. I need something big enough to sit the module in to contain it and catch all the bits and pieces and then tip it off as we go. In this video, we're going to have a whole bunch of fun. Still probably not as the exciting bit for some. However, there are some key foundation pieces we are now going to put into place that really start to give a little bit of familiarity. I've pushed myself a little bit in trying to create a section that I had just given up on and thought near enough is good enough, but I went the little extra mile, and I must admit, it's absolutely well worthwhile. So again, as you can probably see, hopefully in the picture, just down beside me is the laneway that comes over and takes you down to where the hotel is, and what you can't see is the actual module where the hotel will be standing itself. But basically, we're getting to the point now where we need to get serious about getting our roadway down, getting our paths, getting that dirt right now, and we're going to start to introduce static grass. We've got to make sure we've got our trees located where they need to be, because there's going to be a lot of trees, which means lots of bark around the bottom. So need to make sure all of the key things are coming into place now. So as always, let's do a bit of a previously, check out what we did last time, and then we'll carry it on and keep going. So sit tight and enjoy.
Well, that's it. We carved some rock face. We managed to lay down the base of the roads. And of course, most importantly in this one, we managed to paint it brown and dump the dirt on, which is always a pretty symbolic moment. So let us carry on now in today's episode. And an advance apology. Something went wrong during the editing process. I managed to recover most of what I need, but it's not zoomed into the right position, but we will carry on. Apologies. So here's where we joined up the start of this path that's going to go down, and you can see we're just going to take a little bit of glue and some loose stones to create a little bit of an edging or a rock face, a little bit to it. Nothing too gnarly, just something mild. From there, of course, we're going to come back, glue down and texture it a little bit with some additional sand, let it dry, and sprinkle in a little bit of the green stuff. Nothing major, because we'll come back and detail this later. Now we're going to take a little bit of the leftover laser cut timber that we had of our canal piling kit from Scale Model Scenery, and just randomly sticking it together to create the staircase for the entrance to Fawlty Towers. Not sure how it's going to turn out, but we're just going to bung it together. I don't have a guide or anything. I really wish I would have had the quayside step system so I could have used the template, but we're just going to eyeball this for the moment, and it's just standard PVA glue that we're going to whack down. Coming back now, we're just going to use a little bit of the Woodland Scenics road-based system. The buff that they use in the gravel road there is what we're going to do our walking trail with at the moment. I want it to look more of a grey, so we're going to come along and scrape in a bit of the pastels. And even then, after we did that, I've still come back in with a bit of a wash, although the wash ended up being just slightly too dark, as you can see here. After it dried, and while it did bring out the definition I needed, I came back with some DCC Concepts weathering powder, the grey, and dusted it over. And at the moment, we'll just leave it the way it is and see how we go. Of course, now we're going to take some of the AK interactive asphalt, and basically we're just liberally slapping it on. There's no right or wrong. It doesn't have to be too smooth, because we can always develop potholes as we go along. It's just a matter of getting that base coat down at the moment and ensuring that we've got a bit of a roadway we can start working with. So we just smooth it out, and we're going to leave this one to dry for a few days. Now we return back to our stairs where the 3 sections we've joined up, we can now start to assemble into a one-piece arrangement. I think the width isn't too bad for what I'm chasing here. Again, just going on the eyeballs at the moment. Now we need to create the ends as seen in the Fawlty Towers picture. Also noticed it's got lanterns on it. I thought we'll give this a try, but basically we're just taking our foam board and getting it into roughly the shape we need. And you can see me take a drill there because I'm going to try my best to thread some lamp posts through. With the walls complete for that staircase, we're just going to take a bit of the AK concrete and we're just going to wrap it in, also to create a bit of a base layer. Once we've got that base layer created, I was going to scribe a little bit of the brick and detail into it, but it's just not going to be seen at that level, so we won't do too much. We'll just treat it as though it was a render. Now we've also taken a few extra offcuts and just knocked them up because I thought we'd create a sort of a semi-fence entrance to Fawlty Towers, just a couple of pillars so to speak, and that's what you can see in the background. But here we're going to take our sandpaper and we're now going to just sand back the staircase as required. It works as a pretty good sealer and gives us texture, and of course to get the color that we're going to be using as the predominant white as seen in Fawlty Towers, we're going to use a color from Vallejo called Rotten White. You'll also see me take a couple of those DCC Concepts lamp posts that we had because I ended up with spares after one went bad in the station and I needed to order another 8 to replace one. So I thought what I might do is strap the headgear in here, take a little bit of just black paint, and I'm going to take the maroon off of our lamp posts and turn it into the black, since they're the lamp posts, very similar to what we've seen. They may not have the hanging rails for the baskets, but I'm going to leave them on and just twist them in the other direction, and all in all I think this might actually turn out okay. I'm no good with the fine painting, as you well know, but I gave it a crack in this application. We now just return back after that asphalt has dried for several days, and wouldn't you know it, I don't have enough white lines left to do the lines on the road, so we'll make do and snip up the best bits we can and at least get the far side done. The other bit, we're going to have a slightly elevated bit because we've got a couple of street lamps we're going to pop into place, so we'll come back to that in another episode, I think. For the minute, just a bit more dirt here and there and keep building those edges up so it looks like a fair join. And there you go, the DCC Concepts weathering powder in grey, trying to bring this path into what I'm trying to look for. It's still not right, but at the moment this will be okay until we get those trees up. So here is our little entrance staircase. Could have been a bit wider. You can probably see the markings on it. It's just some leftover, a laser cut kit from the canal, if I'm not mistaken. But to bring out those lines, I thought we'd just add a little bit of light olive drab, both to bring out the lines and to give it that bit of a mossy look that you'd expect on some English stairs. I might even just take a little bit of weathering, a light wash as well. See what we end up with here. Yes, the bit you've been waiting for. Taking those ends and now attaching them to the staircase and carving out the section we need. And I think you'll agree, this is looking interesting. Now we're just going to take the AK asphalt, the pre-done stuff. I find it's quite resilient against things, gives good build-up of the road, falls away nicely like you've just put asphalt down. It's hard not to fall in love with the product straight out of that bottle. We just pull that module back a bit so nothing's going to stick to it and leave that roadway to dry. We're now just going to take a little bit of the cribbing and we're just creating what would be where the car park actually is and just a little bit of a wall. We just go back, we're going to paint it, glue it into place. By the time we put the trees and the shrubs around the bottom, you didn't really need to do this, but we do sort of see a densely, almost a hedge-like situation formed around that part of the car park. So I think this isn't a bad way to go. And again, just brown paint, get the dirt on, a bit of glue, more dirt, build it up. And once I'm happy with it, we're just going to use just the standard foam board glue to get that into position. So here we are back with those little entrance pillars for the gate or fence, so to speak. We're also going to take the back of what will be timber fences, but we're going to literally put the concrete foundation down and our rotten white to create that semi-rendered type of finish on the fence. Remember, the fencing actually won't be finished in one section because O'Reilly hasn't finished that wall as described in the Fawlty Towers episode. And as we just tidy up a bit of extra dirt against that fence, some hopeless camera work here, and we're just, you can see the dirt being applied to the other side of the fence there as we bring it together. Well, now it's time to get to the exciting part. Finally, we can get some static grass here, and I guess this bit with the hotel where it's going to sit is the most important. I really want to get it right. Now, this is still the original knock static grass glue that I've been using since the start. I'm nearly at the end of it, so it's worked out for great value for money. What's the difference between that and PVA? Look, I am told that the pores stay open with this one and it is better and better conductivity, but I've used PVA in other areas and I cannot spot a difference whatsoever. Of course, we get the glue down. We're going to start it off with some 2mm fibers. I just try and block some of my static grass applicator off because it's got such a big opening and I find I could get better control if we close it off a bit. So a 2mm, a quick tip upside down, a tap, 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 and reapply again. Then we're going to load the hopper up with 4mm. I'm using a mix of 75% light grass and a pinch of medium and just a small pinch of dark, and I think it just gives, it's matching the rest of what we're doing on this layout. Absolutely, those results speak for themselves. I haven't dusted any other flocking and colour to it yet. We'll just keep it neutral until we've got the scene finished. Now we're going to take our time and get all those other modules done. Remember, I'm deliberately leaving bits of brown because we've got a lot of trees. We're not going to overthink it. I haven't measured it out with the trees. We can put our crushed up bark leaves where we need, kind of what we did with the golf course. But we at least want to get a bit of a base layer down and then we can tidy it up as we go. Very keen also to get rid of this paddling pool and give the room a good clean out after all of this because it's rather messy. So cue the music. Now it's back to that Hydrocal Woodland Scenics retaining wall type of stuff. I'm going to paint it and get just the brown paint we've been using to get the timber looking on the inside. On the outside, we've brushed it over with our AK concrete to give it a bit of a render. And then we're just going back with the rotten white paint. So on one side it looks like they've tried to render the wall, the other side is just the timber frame, which is probably going to start to rot in time, but in reality that's how a lot of stuff is being built these days, and this probably meets the requirement. Next, we're going to take some more asphalt and we need to get started with that bridge module at the moment. I'm going to keep it simple, and the inspiration we're going to be taking for this actually comes locally here from the next town over, at both actually a railway crossing and indeed the causeway entering into the town coming from my town, which is highly recognizable. So as you can see, it's just a scrap piece of pipe we had from the petroleum depot on the sprue, and we're just taking some of the foam board and cutting it into lengths, gluing it together. And by the time you wrap that concrete onto it, things are looking pretty good. This little strip here with the white paint, that's going to be our edging going around the bottom bit of the grass for Fawlty towers. So we assemble this now together, and we should be able to put our road overpass into position. All we need to do next is get those posts glued into place. So as we manipulate a few holes to get this into position, we also just glue it in with a bit of our glue there, and also I go back again with the concrete texture, let it dry, rotten white paint, tap it over, a little bit of black just to fill in the areas, and we're looking good. A quick peep back over to A.G. Zemek Bridge in Maryborough, and again it's a cross between that one and the one coming in over the crossing after Dundatho that we're chasing here, and I'm trying to just match up basic colours of that verdigris green. Here we are getting stuck into scribing the wiring again. I've just done that same trick again where we're going to take our foam wire probe and cut some notches in for the electrical to sit in, and some rudimentary measurements, drill a hole into the baseboard, we're good to go. I just noticed there's a little height differentiation between the bridge and the road section, so of course I did just have to do a little bit of more asphalting down to the side lip so it joins up, you don't see the blue. Here I am using that hot wire cutter and soldering in our lights as needed. Now it's time to add a few little bits of road stripes onto that bridge, and this will be a one-way only bridge. You'll need to give way. It doesn't allow traffic on both sides. This is a quieter type of little section, so you could comfortably see cars coming, and I've done the appropriate signposting. I did leave a little bit of a lip there for a footpath. That's why, if you're wondering why the line has a little bit of a gap there, but we'll just trim up the lines as required from scale model scenery. And you did see me squirt on a little bit of fixative spray, and as you can see, it's looking quite good. So yes, I did scribe a little bit of detail as I was pointing to up there, and I thought I'll take a little bit of wash to try and bring it out, but let's be fair, I just took a general wash just to weather down the overall shininess of this new bridge we've created, and just trying to create a little bit of shadow work under the more darker sections where the sunlight's not penetrating it as hard. The results aren't too bad, just backwards and forwards, a little bit of extra detail around where some steam locomotives might have been. And here's the trapdoor. We're going to make a little extra cut to it so everything's going to fit nicely. Yes, we need to do this with the fine turf, and we're going to apply it to the edges. Still a bit subtle now that that's dried. You can see we've tried to add that sort of effect, but I think I'm going to brush that on with some powder. But our next little challenge is our little footpath that needs to sit across the side here. And all we've done is put some concrete again on it. And I did scribe using our cutter, which I didn't worry about filming, little notches for the expansions in it. The problem is, this is a bit too fine. I actually scored them but I think every second one would look more plausible for the situation we're in. As I said, it's really fine stuff, so if I push it, it's just going to snap in half. But I took a little bit of black paint just to give it that sort of separation, washed it over, and look, it doesn't look all that bad. And this is also in a place, honestly, you're never really going to see this whatsoever, so I think we're absolutely fine. So a few drops of PVA around the edges now, and we're going to dust on a bit of green fine turf, and I also threw a few stones in there as well. We talked about this in an earlier bridge build, and I did a little bit of work trying to create some vines, but the ones you can see there on the left, while they're starting to look quite impressive, by the time we link up the other module, you'll never see them at all. Now it's time to get these trees that I've got, and they're an absolute bargain, but look at how sexy that looks. If you just spend the time flocking them and getting them to look right, that is a worthy investment. Some matchsticks here. What are we getting up to? Well, I think we need to have those little reflective posts at the side of the road. And well, we've talked about it in an earlier video, and I did it with some reflective material. We're going to keep it a bit old school here. Just chop these sticks down, a little bit of the rotten white, a bit of wash, and then a little red dot. Now that the camera's zoomed out, let me just quickly tell you what we've been doing. And I apologize, the camera work's always a bit howdy-doody on these videos. I get exceptionally limited time being in the room as it is to do anything. So I'm always in a hurry just to get what I need done and carry on. Of course, sometimes it comes at the cost I haven't quite got the camera where it needs to be. But of course, rotten white is the color we're using. We've cut some sticks. These are going to be for the roadside posts with the little reflector that we'll just do with a red dot this time, unlike a previous video where I used the reflective stuff. The posts to hold the Fawlty Tower sign, and some other ones to hold other signs that we may need. I think we're going to go back and put another coat of paint on them, and that's fine. And it was, of course, just a matchstick that we obviously just used our cutter, set the right thing, and chopped it down to the sizes we need. Finally had a next delivery in, landscape lights, which will illuminate the building. So you'll see that in just a moment as we're about to put them into place. And just a little bit of the excess DCC Concepts wire, which is just thin enough to be feeding in to feed the lights we need in the building, and then we'll trunk it all down as you've seen we've been doing with the street lights. This seems to be a really, really good way to work. So that's what you're about to see now. I say it because who knows how the camera is going to look. Oh, and the other thing is I've got some of the signs we're going to need printed up for O'Reilly's truck, which is not beside me at the moment, but you will see shortly. This is for the back side and then for the front. I'll point it out now because you can't really see it, and there'll be a shot I'm going to cut to here of the original. I just sort of designed it myself. I chopped the top to make it so I can at least see that on the side, hopefully. And what you can't probably see in this, but on the bigger one, established 1969, because that was when Bryan Adams said that was the summer of '69. I jest, of course, it just seems like a symbolic date. For those of you that don't know, 3rd of October 1969 was when Gwen Stefani, the singer of band No Doubt, was born. Also had a successful solo career as well that's still going on. So you can see we've got the signs we need here for everything. Now, I've printed it twice, 200 GSM, almost that kind of card type of paper, and just regular A4 paper. What we are going to do is take a little bit of our silver grey and just a real light spray to the back of it, really with the card. The paper stuff's really just going to be, I really only printed it on paper just to get onto the truck. But on the card, we'll just take our Tamiya silver spray where the signs are, which I only need this section, and won't worry about the paper. I will take this outside. I'm not going to film it because those fumes can be howdy-doody. So as we bring this module back into the picture here, you'll recall we've made a series of holes here. Now I'm hoping that the hole is just the right size to go through without having to glue the lights in place. It looks good to me. Certainly one of the hidden talents I wasn't so aware of, but getting wires in and using a heat cutter here to bore holes where you need them and then feed things through, absolutely only way to go. Making a mess. That's what it's all about, isn't it? That's when you know you're having a bit of fun. I think for this we'll use, this particularly, these long ones are the ones I really want to make sure I've got a good coat on them. Still not sure how the sign's going to come together. I might just stack a few pieces of card to thicken and stiffen it up a bit. I was going to make the sign double-sided, but I've changed my mind. It's just going to be the one. We just won't have enough room for everything. The good thing about the matchsticks as well is they're not absolutely perfect. I doubt the camera can zoom in on some of it, but these little imperfections are exactly as per those sticks at the side of the road. Certainly just gives it that little more, gives it a nice bit of texture. I was going to run a little bit of a wash over these, but probably not. I don't mind having it looking a little bit more pristine in some ways. It's going to be very busy in the scene. Really not going to see these much anyway. And I'll cut 4 of these. We still need a sign, which we're probably going to use our styrene rods that are painted silver for the street signs that need to go into place. But there's a hiking trail sign. But most importantly, there's the sign we've made for the car park and the deliveries. So I think that's what the purpose of these ones will probably be. I only need one, but I'll make a few because there might be something else we get up to. Always run my brushes through my hair, get the oil out, keep them nice and soft. And we've got to get these other ones spray painted with the grey on the back. So we'll go do that. Now you can probably see the smoke emanating out of that, but this is very, very, very slow progress. But hopefully in a minute this should cut this chunk out for our electrical feed. So the good news is, at least with an opening like this, I can actually put my hand in and I'll have all the connections lined up here. It's just because we've got some independent ones we're going to need to do with the hotel. And while we did this wiring, as you saw earlier, accidentally the hot knife made contact with it. So I think we're going to fix that up. Great idea, but damn right you better get that soldering iron out, or soldering iron as some call it in other countries. We're going to fix that up properly. It's not a big deal. We may as well get this right. I don't even think the damage I did would impede it in any way, but now we get a little bit tricky. We're going to actually finally set the stairs into place now. They're going to be locked in now. And of course, we're going to come back now and install our roadway posts to the side of our little roadway section here. We're also going to take a moment and get the street signs that I needed into place. And also for the walking trail, it's got its own little sign being drilled into place. We've dropped the LED lights in. And of course, we're now just starting to install that retaining wall, which comes at the cost that we now need to start hacking away at that back piece of scenery to make everything fit. You knew it was coming, but we'll just glue those sections into place now. And of course, we're going to come back to our planter boxes that are going to sit to hold our wonderful apiary-inspired conifers that sit at the bottom part of the steps. Yes, there are some manicured, what look like almost ficuses sitting across the top. We'll deal with them later. Welcome back to another terrible camera angle, but here we are. Just wanted to be quick. You saw me just knock up the little flower boxes to sit at the front of the staircase. And as you can see in this picture, there are some little feet at the bottom. And I wasn't going to worry. I thought at this scale it won't matter. But if you come in nice and close, you will probably see that I did end up just using a scrap bit of laser cut timber kit and just chopped it down. I think this is 1.5 millimeters. And all we're going to do now, I'll let that dry with the glue. I'm just going to quickly run a little bit of paint over it. And these flower boxes have basically taken a week to do. So if we just put the whole scheme of what we've been up to, by the time I've cut it, glued it, put the next set of glue on, it's about a week. So sometimes progress is good. I can get jobs done, and sometimes it's not. I've just come home for a job. It's going on about midnight now. We'll just put a little bit of paint over it, and then we can leave these to dry overnight, and I'll be away for a few days, come back and get on with the next bit. Now, it might not seem like a huge deal. I think most of you will appreciate the grand scene should start looking very good. What's the deal with the tweezers behind it? So I know the back one, because the trees are actually different sizes. As you saw, I had to trim one down, and I use this as the reference point to know this has to be the back. Clean our brush up, and we're good to go. See you in a few days. We'll now slide in the rest of that retaining wall as we've sort of custom cut and designed that back bit to fit like a glove. And the magic here, what I'm actually doing as it's just been glued and into place, I'm actually taking a bit more of a bit of an umber wash we start off with, just to get it looking a bit more brown and fill in some of those gaps, and then just literally a heavy wash straight over. And I think, as you can see, it sort of brings out that sort of aging of the timber quite nicely. Don't worry too much about the detail, because as we carry on, have that section covered by the actual hotel itself. Who knows how this camera angle is? Well, as you will recall, when we had our little sections that we had here before the wall, obviously now it doesn't fit in. So I've just basically scribed them with a hot wire cutter, and we're just taking the section out so we can get it to sit flush, and finally we'll lock it into position. These don't necessarily have to move anymore. All the electrical and everything is done, and that's fine. I thought I'd just join you now on the last piece that we just need to hack out here, which we've just taken a bit of a rudimentary measurement to. And for those of you that are using a hot wire cutter, as I've said, I think this is a brilliant way to go about it. However, once you've put landscaping down, it will be a little bit slower because it has to bite through the glue and material you may have laid down. So as you can see, I've just hit this bit of a stone. I find moving it up and down will help it slide better. We don't have to be too perfect here because we're actually going to fill in the join with some bushes and shrubs, heavy bits of paint, and then of course all the glue from doing the static grass. It does take a little bit of time. Here we are. Now we haven't wasted anything because we can actually reuse these sections as I'm about to do. This little bit here, which I nipped off the end to fill in the gap, as you may be able to see depending on that camera angle, just in here. So we're going to fill those little sections in as needed. 0.25, I just need to slice back in there, literally the tiniest of wedges. And I'll take it straight out of the bit where it was supposed to be. And there we go. Right, let's get this put together now. Foam glue, as always, is what we're going to use. And no real art or science in this. Just blob that good stuff down. Should give us a pretty good illusion. So we'll keep this weighted down for the minute. And we'll go from there. And if you're wondering what's going on there, I decided to get that drawer fixed. So all the paints and materials have come out while I get the bottom replaced, and we'll get that all back to normal. Thank goodness that's all fixed in record time. How about these trees? I just wanted to take a moment. I also obviously went through, as we've talked about before, reapplying some bark and spraying some fixative spray straight across the top to really sit it in place. These are cheaper trees and they're not the best, but I think if you spend a bit of time with them, you're going to yield some excellent value for money. Now it's time for some more crushed leaves, and let's start planting some of these trees into the appropriate locations. We really never see this end of the hotel, so we can do whatever we want for the most part. It's an elegant way to hide the joins in the fence of that retaining wall we put in. I don't believe it. I forgot to hit record while I was doing that step. Fiddlesticks. Let me just point out what just happened here. I only just added a couple of extra trees here on the back, nothing interesting there, and I was just saying we're going to have to do the bark on them. The only other thing was the two on the inside, and if we have a quick look at this picture here, the moment that on the anniversary she thinks he's forgotten and drives out of the driveway, and the friends then ironically just arrive, he's on his hands and knees just down here or toward this location of the entrance, and we see two distinct trees obviously growing on a bit of an angle, which is what we've just sort of tried to apply here, and I think that'll do it. I don't think we really need them. I'm still going to put something else here, but until we've got the rest of the hotel put in place, I might just leave that area empty for the minute. And now to maybe the biggest surprise of them all, the absolute part of the build I enjoyed the most. I really wasn't sure what was going to happen here as we plant the big pine trees in the back. I've got plenty of scenes in real life, but have a look at that. I could almost smell the scene. That's how impressed I am with the way this has absolutely turned out. And I don't even give one howdy doody about the realism here. And the bit I accidentally forgot to hit record on is as we come back and add a little bit of greenery now to the section. But we'll come back to that. But these key trees are starting to come into place and the scene is looking good. And we're going to keep using some of the pines because we still have them. What's the little white stick and the red for? Oh, I think you know what that one's all about. Yes, that's right. Look closely to the left-hand side of that image and you'll notice there's a white stick with a bit of red marking. Maybe it's to do with water meters or hydrants. I'm not from the UK. I have no idea, but that's why we're putting it in. And what's under here? Well, that's a surprise you're about to see. Just quickly, this little bit of sort of retaining wall that we've built here. We just used one side, and as you can see, I've just used a bit of dirt to sort of build it up on the other side, as you would expect. For this section coming around here, and I'm not sure quite what I'm up to over here yet, But this sort of little bit linking it up, we're going to do some of the white posts, similar to what was seen over at the cricket club, which is as seen on this picture. But you'll notice there was still a wall in the backdrop of it. So that's what we're getting up to over here. I prepared this yesterday. I'm just going to set this in place, which is what you're about to see now. But the difference is, it's double-sided. So I snipped it up and then glued the two pieces together. This is my first seeing of it. It came out really, really well. So before I lock it into place, I'm just going to take a little bit of brown paint and sort of soften the tops off a little bit, and then we'll put it in. Another rush night, and I probably could have got this looking a little better. I did use the Gorilla Glue. I should have used the foam glue I used before, or PVA, but a few pins to basically get a bit of a shape. And here we go with our matchsticks again, trying to create this. Instead of having it with the sort of skewer sticks, the round ones, we're going to go with square ones, and it actually sits on top rather than bolted to the sides like we've seen before. But we just come in with a little bit of our green turf and a few little shrubs and bushes to start to create that fence, and a little bit of dirt pushed up against the side and some stones. And this little bit of plastic stonework I picked up on the Jeep from a popular trading site, and then just sprinkling down a little bit of fine grey ballast and buff and mixed it up. And it's just to create a little something. Remember, it's a bit of a fake wall in the fact that the back scene lifts up, so you don't see it at the angle what's in between. I might put some of the scale model scenery shrubs there, but here we are just also laying down some of our crushed up leaves and bark here, and indicating where we're going to be starting to lay some of the key trees in now. So we also come around the other side, it's just PVA, and then we put the leaves and bark down, a quick spray of wet water, and then diluted PVA to really let that set. Now, this is the bit I forgot to hit record on, but I had already been in a few times and started adding the greenery, as you can see. It's subtle, it's minor, it's clean, which is important, and I think it just gives a nice little thing. We're probably going to come back and do a little more with this later on. Yes, our wonderful white fences are done, so we've put a few into place. One I still don't know where, but we'll put that in a little later, and we'll start building our little brick wall. This is the one O'Reilly is obviously supposed to be doing, and is sort of left in a half shambles here. And of course, we're going to need a garden gnome, somewhere for Basil Fawlty to stick it right up to O'Reilly for not finishing the brick wall that he's working on here. Just left it in a pile of bricks. Nothing that he can't be sued for, of course. So I found this little kit that has the gnomes. Unfortunately, as you can imagine, they're not painted. So that's just another thing we'll have to add to the list and make the video longer. Cue the shonky camera work now, but how was I ever going to get to film this? This thing is as hard as when we were doing the T-scale cars we painted for the radio control circuit. If you haven't seen it, check that video out. But I think we did half decent and painted some firewood up. Ta-da! Thank you for joining me now on one of the most important trees that I think needs to go in on this scene. Now, I've reserved a few other trees. That's why you've just seen some of them laid on the back bit. But it happens to be the one, and in fact, there's one standing about here and another one here. Now, these loggerhead pines would be ideal that Woodland Scenics do, and I do have them on the coastal area, but they don't quite have the height I need. So we are going to go with some of our cheap and cheerful ones. And I deliberately left the spot here. We're going to put one in, and then we're going to put a second one in as we go. Most of what we need to do has happened here, apart from our flower boxes that'll be dropped in. But I'm pretty happy with what's going on here. So we will put our main trees in here. And as you can see from this picture, we're trying to frame that overlap that just gets bordered in on pretty much all the shots I can find. So let's get this happening. This is the tree that I did put aside. I put quite a bit of time into making sure all the branches were sprued out the way they need to give me that exact view when you're looking up that I need. So I think you could agree with me, if we get this dropped into position, this is about as close as it can get to where we see it coming toward the hotel. So we're going to put it in and see what we can do. 4mm drill bit we're basically using on this. Going to make a reasonably deep hole here because I'm not quite sure how far we're going to set this in. I've also put the lights on specifically like this to try and give that traditional sort of shot that was used. Generally the sun was somewhere sort of up into this sort of position, not generally where your camera is shining in, although for most of what we've been building, that's the way I've been doing it. But I've shut that light down for the minute. Could be a bit bigger hanging over, but I think based on what we're doing, that's okay. We're going to get another tree in off to the side. And then this bit was particularly sort of built up and quite thick and green. I probably won't go quite that thick and green. I don't have that many trees. And also I still want people to come in and see. So we're going to be a little bit diplomatic on that, but I think it should look quite good. And there you go. Perfectly framing that shot as needed. Well, we better get on with the rest of it. That's spectacular. I couldn't be more happier with how that's going. Up to and including, it looks like the roadway is simulated and going up, even though it's dead set straight. So the illusion of that upper piece and the staircase really give good depth. Hey, this isn't looking all that bad at the moment, but I hate to say it, we're going to replace that tree. There's our garden gnome in place, and we're going to start planting the other trees that come around the bend. This big one here from Knock just looks right. I can't explain it, but we need more of this lodgepole type of tree. Just happened to spot this one. This might just do to fill that little gap. Oh, and more disasters now as we put this thing in. The tree must have been in that box for years, sitting on a shelf somewhere, because every time I moved the branches, they kept falling off. I try to put it back together. I take a note here of this particular one because some of these trees I really like, and if I ever need them again, I don't have a store to look at them in. So when I look at the catalogue, I can cross-reference what I used, and here we go. A few other ones is this entrance to the pathway for the walking path. I spotted those three clumped together in the packet, and so I left them there. They just sort of seemed right. And a few little dust, a little bit of bark and some loose gravel just around the bottom here, so it sort of edges onto footpath versus road section, and it really is looking quite sharp, if I don't mind telling you. We carry on now, sweeping it into place. Now we're going to come along and put a few tufts of grass down that walking trail. There's no right or wrong. Then again, we're going to come back and do some finer detail with all of this when we put our people in. For the minute, it's just to give it just a little bit of a breakdown, and where there's some sloppy sort of bits of paint and joins, we sort of just hide them. That's kind of the process we always do with especially with our scale model scenery foliage matting, which I absolutely love. We can just snip up and bring into place. I also decided to plant a small blackberry bush down here. Someone might want to grab a quick snack on the way as they're coming down the trail. This seemed like the perfect place for it. And with that tree sticking out, jutting from the edges, is exactly the same place near Mangalo where we used to go picking blackberries in South Australia. So it's very nice. In fact, let's take a quick trip back. And isn't it amazing, since 1983-84 of my first memory, and while there's no yellow stick here anymore, which is where I used to play with my old Matchbox Lenzie Ford, the maroon one, here is the exact spot. That's Franklin Harbour over there in Cowell, so that's where the water is and where I'm always featuring my coastal inspiration. Left and right here is where we went in to get the blackberries. I often didn't. I was a bit little at that point, but this little side bit, and it was in the morning we always went, so this is a very good timing because that's when this shot was taken. But as you can probably notice, this particular tree, as I got older, I took a backpack with rope and thought I could go rock climbing. I got the rope up there, and I just had the best time of my life here. Fantastic. They kept trying to poison it off, and because it's a weed. But and also, I should just take notice on top of this hill here. And in fact, if we take a quick step back into 2008, you'll notice the antenna mast on the top. I mean, what was not to love about this little curve up here? And we pulled over and got the blackberries, blackberry ice cream, blackberry jam. I really got sick of blackberries, but I'll never lose the memories. Fantastic stuff. We also can't forget about that last little linking section that comes down where we're going to be putting an abandoned lamp hut at the moment, but a few trees in there and some key ones I wanted to get right to just get the right shadows when we're looking at this perfect at the moment.
Well, here we are. We've got our 4 pieces. We've got the main Fawlty tower section, the roadway section, the bridge section, and of course the little bit that'll wrap around the electrical substation. Now, we are going to put this modular system into place, and I thought we'll do it in real time so you can see how it should come together. Fingers crossed. Who cares about how long it takes, since we've already exceeded that anyway. Let's put it together now. Swing the camera around. Remember, the plug for the street lamps and the rest of the wiring will drop in. We won't be connecting any of that up in this video. We'll keep doing a few extra bits and pieces. Let's put it on. First, we'll start with the bridge section. I'll leave that little piece of paper just in there at the moment. Next, we're going to pop this one in. Just remembering, we've got our little plug over here. Now, if you didn't notice as well, I've got another camera beside me that we can flick to some footage, as seen here, which shows me where this needs to sit if we're going in this direction. Don't worry about the green little bit at the back there. It sits on top. I've never put it in place yet to trim it to size, but that's what will happen. Coming back to this particular camera, we can make the join with the cable. Remember, black is to black. And red is to grey. And there's plenty of room here. We can just tuck that into place should we need to get it out anytime soon. Coming with our other section now. And we're always just wary of that particular signal. And I should have put my hand on the other side of that. And this hand at the back's not really a good spot to be, but you're all getting a great view. I need to be standing in the middle to get this thing down evenly. That's okay. It's not a great amount of weight, so we're all right, and everything is securely put into place. What we're doing here, make sure we're where we should be. Got to keep checking that bridge. Even though we've checked it. Oh, there you go. There we go. If everything's in the right spot, there you go. We'll fill this stuff in as we go, probably with just some of this or what have you. I'm not going to overthink this for the minute. We'll come back to that in a future video. And my next step, of course, is we're going to create some joining situation here. Let's jump and look at the other camera now. Hello. And we'll grab our extra little piece that we had sitting over there, which will sit here. And we'll put this here for the minute. And we're just going to add a few little finishing touches to this scene.
And there we go. And as always, of course, which will be our next challenge, this section can come out and we can of course work on that as needed. And I can get straight down into all our plugs to connect back here, including a little lip where I can sit stuff. We'll get the camera in and show you that. So as you can see, and there's my cavity looking down below. Hello. So we've always got this shelf. We might well put a terminal block up there. I'm not sure. The cords will literally just fall down and connect up to their splicing plugs as necessary. And there's our little garden gnome. Turned out quite well. Well, I thought we are going to stop it here, but I thought we may as well just carry on with at least getting the start of this pathway done. So just taking offcuts of the foam board now and shaping a little bit of a joiner scene to act as a segue. Just while that's drying, let me just point out, these are those leftover bits we cut up where the fence was at the top, and I think, as you can see, we can even just recycle and drop them into places. It's not perfect, but what I'm saying is that it's sometimes you can just fill the gap with whatever's lying around. I had a few of them and I thought, interesting. But of course, we're going to build this join up a bit and create a little bit of interest around access to the signal area. Probably a little fence section where people can't walk over to. I'm not sure yet. This old chestnut again, you know the story. We're going to mix up a little bit of Mod Podge, a little bit of brown paint, just a few drops of water to get it going, and we're going to use it as our sealer. It's Mod Podge, so it's sticky. We may as well dump some dirt down and a few stones. Okay, well, let us have a look what we've got here. It's all come together nicely. Just a light little tickle of the loose stuff. Won't worry about recycling that. We've still got to come back and layer on the path and do the rest, but this is just to really give it that basic shape at the moment to see if this is going to work. So the theory is, I'll just take a pop stick and help this a little bit up, I think, but the theory is it would just slide in here. I don't think that looks all that bad. Just something we'll put here, shrub it around, and still we're probably going to use these in some sort of configuration. 5 minutes late for an appointment, but let's try and just get a little something on at the moment so it can be drying while I'm out the door. This time we'll just use the light wash on it, and then we'll brush on the DCC Concepts grey weathering powder. Yeah, see, that results a bit more pleasing. That looks quite good. So we'll give that a moment to dry. Brush on the grey and we'll blend in. I'm going to leave this just for the minute because I had another idea where I can create some more interest here. But we'll at least get this section done and we're almost there. It's just standard PVA. What I'm actually going to do here, I'm just going to create a bit of an aggregate at the bottom. We're going to create a smoother path on the way up, but just something where they might have to get a truck up from around the corner or something. So we're just going to lay a little bit of the bigger stuff down and build it up. Just some of the grey talus we're using on this. It's the coarser stuff, as I said. We'll come down and smooth it out, but we want to create that bigger type of a shoulder here. Looks good. And then just over that, a little bit of fine buff, more focused toward the middle. But we still want to see that grey shoulder peeking through, and or like you've got just here, still see some of the stones, the bigger ones, peeking through. Now we have a pinch of the fine grey buff and also a bit of the woodland scenics, what they use for the dirt roads and that. Now, that was a bit much going down. I guess it's just to break the colour up. And while we'll do that with the pastel, I'm just trying to create those initial textures. It's the bit you don't think of with the scene once you've built it, but you really get a really good, I think you just get kind of like what we did where we layered it up around the edges here. It just gives a nice kind of point of interest or something like that. Bit of wet water. Tiniest pinch of just a little bit of dirt. And whatever we're doing here to join it up, which we don't know yet. And some diluted PVA glue with water and a dishwashing liquid. We don't want to get a lot on here. Alright, we're starting to come to an end with this video, but before we do, I just wanted to point you in case you didn't see the little detail with the conduit we wrapped in around for this cabinet here in a little bit of a bush. I'm not quite finished here, I'm just waiting on some glue to dry, but it certainly should be dry enough that we can slide this back into place. And then this bit comes in here, and then we have just this little bit which I probably will still texture a bit more, but it's really only just about popping it in. And that just gives us an easy way to separate the scene off. It could look a bit better, a few more little bits and pieces and trees, but before I carry on, one of the final pieces I have now been waiting on happened to be the car. As seen in this picture, which if we pay special attention, you'll see on the back windscreen, it looks a little bit longer, like it's the utility or station wagon type of version. Well, I wasn't going to find that. But the great thing is, once again, we're back to this Viking brand, and they actually have one of these little Austin 7s, which, while it's not exactly the same, I think it's going to be more than acceptable for a pass sitting in our parking lot. So I have been waiting on this one for a little bit, coming in from Germany. So we're going to pop that on the scene, and I think we'll get a few parting shots now. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to what is effectively now the end of this video. Shh, shh. Well, you can't lie. It's hard to believe that we've gotten this far so far. We've just left a bit of firewood sitting out the back, and we're just going to welcome this beautiful class 25 around the corner. I'm not running it with sound or anything like that at the moment. The good news is the signal is green. I'm I'm waiting on a few more trees and bits and pieces to finish up the join at the moment in the scene, but I think, as you can see, it's very passable at the moment. I actually do like the way that trail is trailing up there. And of course we've got the sign, Flowery Twats, a sign that can come in and out regarding deliveries. If you don't want it when we get the iconic scene, it can come out. I'm not too sure, but for the minute, it can just sit in this little gap. Of course, we've got O'Reilly's truck at the back to do the work, as we've seen in the original picture. The Fawlty's car, which may not be the extended one, but I think it's more than passable. The garden gnome to stick up O'Reilly for not doing this wall that he's doing in the back properly. The entrance trees, which will probably get moved as we get the hotel going. We've got the roadway. I couldn't be more happier with the actual roadway that comes in itself as it makes its way up, particularly as we come in with the detail on our little roadside markers and we make our way up the road there, particularly as we get to the actual crossing. Let's turn the camera around. Being greeted to that single way crossing just up there, which I think the sign clearly indicates. Bridgeway is very functional. I'm going to leave it just the way it is. Simplicity will win the day on that one. But I think this backdrop that comes up framing off where the petroleum depot is and our substation, of course, I think it's just simple, functional and elegant. I know there's a lot more detail we could add. Maybe we're going to come back with some more things later. But of course I don't usually film this, but as I was running the track slowly for the very first time, I left a piece of baking paper on there and it's got glue. So wasn't that really, really bad? Stick that one on the blooper reel. Oh, I'm really cranky about that. Sorry about that. We've got him running around solo at the moment after we've cleaned his wheels, and here we are. All I was going to say is very happy with how this entire scene has turned up. We're still going to obviously do a bit more detail with the lamp hut and just around here. But all in all, I think we've got a real winner on our hands here. Thank you for staying with me on this one.
Well, girls and boys, ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you so much for joining me. That's going to do it for another video now. You've got to say, how about those stairs with the lampposts? I couldn't be more happier. And look, if that was worth taking that few moments to try and recreate that scenario, I think the whole idea about trying to scratch build Fawlty Towers is worth a shot. Remember, I'm not trying to get the building exactly right. 2 stories, thankfully, both of them, they just have rectangle windows, which seems pretty straightforward. Going to try and create the little bit where the restaurant bit is to have that little bay style window alcove bit sticking out. And of course, where the bar would be on the other side with its ventilation fans. The entrance, which is pretty stock standard, and a little bit of the decorative. And the chimneys, which of course has got to be very important. We're going to give it a crack. I've got a few different ways I'm going to try it. Either way, we'll see what we can do. A little bit of illumination in the building. Don't expect to see in the building and see little chairs and tables or anything like that. But I do have a few little surprises I'm planning. But enough that, like the rest of the layout, when it is illuminated at night, it does draw the eye in a little bit. And while it won't have quite the detail that Noodle Knocker Junction has, that obviously, for those of you that don't know, there's actually a model railway in the building underneath. If you peep in and have a look and check out that video, I'm sure there's a link somewhere in this direction. I think we do need to just create a little bit of ambience where we can. But of course, that's going to do it for this video. Of course, there's going to be another one coming up. And until then, please do stay safe. Toodles!